A 90-minute session for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series kicks off Fast Friday, presented by K&N Filters. A lot of rain here last night. Big storms in Texas, but today 54 degrees, winds out of the north-northeast. Track temp of 78, getting a bit warmer, and hopefully the rain stays away. So welcome to Texas, the wide open spaces of one of NASCAR's favorite places.
I love this joint. I tell you what, the track record here, 200 miles an hour, which is, I think this may be the only mile and a half where we've run that fast. A little over 200 miles an hour, 200.111 miles an hour set by Tony Stewart last year here. I'm anxious to see, Larry, how close we're going to get to that record with this new Aero horsepower package.
Yeah, and this is the first time in 2015 we've had to deal with this schedule. This is truly our first Saturday night points race. It's a true two-day weekend. So all the practices before qualifying this afternoon. So I think what we'll see all the drivers this morning, Darrell, will be in race trim. I don't think we'll see a lot of practice qualifying runs until maybe that second session a little later on.
I agree.
Penske cars out quick and out fast. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, those Team Penske cars enjoying early season success. Wins by both Logano and Brad Keselowski have secured them spots in the chase. And although Logano won here a year ago, Brad Keselowski's never won here at Texas in Sprint Cup. His best finish is second. And they're viewing this as an opportunity weekend. Now, last year, they won more races, 3. Keselowski did than any other driver in the season on the mile and a halves. They're looking at this as an opportunity because they feel like that they are a step off of the Stewart, Haas, and the Hendrick cars. So this is going to be a really good gauge for them to see where they stack up as the season progresses on. Chris Neville?
And Matt, our most recent winner, Denny Hamlin at Martinsville just 2 weeks ago, and he's coming off a couple hard weekends prior to that, challenging finishes outside the top 20 at both California and Phoenix. And at Phoenix, he said, hey, we just were not good. But talking with his crew chief this morning, Dave Rogers, he said, you know, those weekends were different. Phoenix, we were bad in the garage. We were unorganized, and it showed on the racetrack. When we got to California, we had speed, and that's because we were better in the garage. We carried that momentum to Martinsville, and he said, now this team is really getting organized. We're clicking on all cylinders, and even though Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick have won 5 of the last mile and a halves, he said, we think we can compete here.
Now, Denny Hamlin is one of a number of drivers doing the double duty. He's actually in that 54 car substituting for Kyle Busch. So he got a lot of practice last night in those 2 practice sessions. So it looks like that he and Dave Rogers, they've elected to kind of let some rubber get down on the racetrack.
A lot of times I'd like to do that, Larry. I'd like to get up on the truck like you see Denny Hamlin doing. Watch the other cars, see where they're running on the racetrack, see what kind of lap times they're putting down before I go out and make my fast run. So I kind of like doing that. Little observation there, see what everybody's doing, and then go do your thing.
Martin Truex Jr. quickest in the early laps of this practice. Now, Ricky Stenhouse just came off the track with a little bit of smoke from his car. Let's see.
There he goes up in front of Brad Keselowski there in the 2. Quite a bit of smoke, actually. See right there, the car just in front of Brad Keselowski. That's it. Stenhouse up into 17. Starts putting a little smoke down. I'm not sure what happened there.
SOA caution. They haven't talked about it. Cars are coming quickly from behind. You'll have 2 of them and then a real big opening if you want to get there.
Yeah, he had completed 1 lap, but then had to take it into the garage area.
No caution. The track stays green. One other area concern, turn 1 and 2. Not the bottom groove where everyone is trying to run, but if you go in there too wide, just prior to practice, up in that second groove, there was a long lay down of speedy dry throughout the first and second corner.
Yeah, more up in this area right here, Mike. I think, well, not maybe not that high, but in this area right here where they're putting down some stay dry.
Even though there were no incidents in yesterday's Xfinity practice, no blown engines or anything. So.
Yeah, the inspectors, safety inspectors must have seen something there they felt like they needed to take care of.
I know you see 24 degrees of banking, and Darrell, you ran a number of races here, and I've read it all week long. The one thing that drivers talk about is how quick the transitions are from the straightaway to that 24 degrees, and then how quick it goes back to flat on the exit.
Yeah, you see it right back here, Larry. When we say you go down in the corner, you literally go down the straightaway, you go down into the corner. And when we say you come up out of the corner, you can see that transition right there. How you come up out of the corner onto the straightaway. That's where the car gets a little squirrely. That's where if you got a little wheel in it and all of a sudden it snaps loose with you, it's that transition from the banking up on the flat straightaway.
Now, the track was not built that way. The distance around this track and the position of the outside walls is the same. But the track was reconfigured after driver complaints the first year or two. The track said shut up and drive. The driver said shut up and fix it. And everybody finally came to agree, and it all worked out fine.
Compromise. I think there was a compromise.
I think so.
One of the things that they run, they run Indy cars here, and I think that was trying to make a track that accommodated Indy cars and these heavier stock cars. I've never seen that work out for us.
Now, you saw Ricky Stenhouse's car smoking. Matt, what happened?
Mike, the good news for Stenhouse, it wasn't any kind of fluid leak. In fact, it was a tire rub. You can see car chief Mike Kelly. He's working that left rear wheel well area. They've already beat out the sheet metal to kind of open that up, give a little bit more room for that tire, but it was simply just a tire rub. And also, Brad Keselowski came back in. They didn't have his transponder on the car. It accidentally fallen off in the garage stall.
Thanks, Matt. Martin Truex Jr., Casey Kane, David Reagan in the 18, Jamie McMurray, and Austin Dillon are the Fast Five. Martin Truex Jr., fastest in this practice so far. Carl Edwards has jumped up into the top 5. A little snip, a little file on Dale Jr.'s number 88, creating a little clearance.
Yo, what you do, Mike, is you go out, you want those things to touch. You want them to hit the racetrack, and then you kind of know how much to clearance that to cut off of there so it'd be right against the track.
Pit road's pretty crowded right now. 11 drivers sitting there along the pit lane. These are drivers that's being penalized for various issues over the last couple of weeks, but most notably, you'll see in that line Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, Tony Stewart. Those drivers, their crew chief, it was mandatory at Martinsville last Friday for a crew chief meeting on Friday morning. They did not attend that meeting, so these drivers are being penalized. You may go, why don't they just do what Denny Hamlin's doing and stand on top of the truck? Can't happen that way. The only way the penalty starts is when the driver's buckled in the car and sitting on pit road. 15 minutes for all these 11 drivers sitting there.
Other than an annoyance to the driver, I mean, he doesn't want to be sitting down there waiting while other people are on the track. You're really not, you got an hour and a half here. You got plenty of time. So time's not a great big issue, but the aggravation is for sure. And
time is a big issue to NASCAR as Denny Hamlin takes to the track after being up on the hauler for the early minutes of this practice. So when you miss a meeting or you're late to inspection, they take some time away from you, time on track.
Yeah, well, remember what it was doing at Martinsville Friday morning. It was raining.
Right.
So crew chiefs maybe didn't think they were going to have their meeting because it was raining.
But Cole Pern was late for our meeting because he had to go to that meeting first.
Cole Pern, he's everywhere.
So Kyle Larson is back behind the wheel of the Chip Ganassi number 42. Chris?
Yeah, Mike, I spoke with Max Jones, who's director of competition at Ganassi, for quite a while yesterday, and he said, we kind of figured out early on that it was probably dehydration at Martinsville, and he could probably race on Sunday. But Max Jones, also being a racer himself back in the 80s, said, hey, I know how hard these guys want to get back behind the wheel, but we had to look at this as a bigger situation. We've got a big investment in Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson, he's a great guy. We've got to look out for him. He's a dad, and we want to see him with the team for a long time. So that's why we did more tests. We wanted to look into it deeper and make sure that there were no issues for the long term.
Thanks, Chris. Max, a very good Trans Am and IMSA racer back in the day. And Darrell, we talked about this on the conference call. Missing a race today is so different than if you had to sit out a race, or even 3-4 years ago if a driver had to miss a race.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, we've crawled in cars. I had a broken leg, and 10 days later I crawled in the car to make a lap, which always seemed ridiculous to me. All I had to do was take the green flag, and I got the points. I never could understand why we had to take the green flag. Why can't we do like they're doing today if you're not healthy or something wrong and there's a real medical reason, you don't have to run the race. You don't have to start the race. So I like where we are today versus where we were maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, I agree, because it gives teams options like the one that Chris just described for Max Jones and that Ganassi team to make sure their driver's 100% before he gets back in the race car. All he's got to do is stay in the top 30 in points to be chase eligible.
See, I think that's the key, Mike. We overlook a lot of times. They say, well, you know, if you win, you're in. Well, if you are in the top 30 in points and you win, you're in. And that's the thing about missing races. You fall way back in the points. Can you get back in the top 30 with a win and still make the chase? That's the challenge.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. probably happy for a week off so that the team can shake off some of the troubles like they had at Martinsville Speedway.
Shifter problems, man. It's the second time it's been them. We got them at Charlotte last year. Got Jimmy Johnson at Michigan. They put one on the car and it broke again, and they finally put another model. I don't know what that means, but another model shifter on the car, and it finished the race. So obviously there's an issue with the shifter.
And then being back there with some of the squirrels, well, you know what happens.
Maybe someday we can tell people what happens when you get back there with the squirrels.
Well, we are on cable. But 3 drivers finishing outside the top 35 at Martinsville. I know everybody, Larry, is weight obsessed, but this whole thing with shifters, I mean, there's a fix for this.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the vibrations that these cars have today, and it finds the weakest link. It's happened to be the shift lead.
Vibrate your eye teeth out if it's that bad.
Closer look at Texas, brought to you by Sprint. Stay connected to the Sprint Cup Series with Sprint during the Cut Your Bill in Half event. Just bring Sprint your Verizon or AT&T wireless bill and your current phone. They'll cut your rate plan.
Yeah, Mike, he's actually won the last 3 trips that we made here in the fall. And in those 3 races, he led 614 of 10,010 laps. In the last 2 spring races, he's led no laps.
But, Larry, what would be the big difference in a spring race here and a fall race here?
A Sprint Cup Series trophy, championship trophy, is only a few weeks away.
You got it, brother.
It's the blind obvious, isn't it?
It is. I'm all over that.
Yeah, a race in the chase.
You thought I was going to say the weather.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were going to say. I love throwing you a curve like that. Oh, Larry, he's over here, he'll get all red, you know, light up, and he'll say, okay, where's he taking me now?
But after 15 years, I know where you're trying to take me.
Russell thought the difference was going to be one's a night race, one's a day race.
Yeah, well, it's just darker at night, that's all.
And the asphalt would not be as hot as if you walked on it barefooted, right?
Don't want to go to the mailbox. Don't want to go to the mailbox.
All right, now wait a minute. Now let's go back in the day. Cale Yarborough won umpteen Southern 500s, couldn't win the spring race.
Exactly.
What was the difference?
It was the weather. I
Okay.
mean, truly, and guys, in the spring, I won 5 spring races because the weather wasn't a factor.
Okay.
But it was so hot there on Labor Day that, man, it would melt the tires sitting on the pit in the pit lane. Cale it didn't bother him.
No.
He put that smelling sauce on the dash. He had like 4 little tubes of smelling sauce. He'd pop that, pull those gloves up over his elbows, and he'd go to work.
Great racer. Absolutely.
He's a man.
Yeah.
He was the man at Darlington.
That's right.
When it come to being tough, there wasn't nobody tougher than Cale Yarborough, but he fought a bear. I think he won.
Now, Kevin Harvick in his 4 car, he was one of those drivers sitting on pit road serving a penalty, and he only ran 5 laps. But, Darrell, one thing I noticed, he had already started moving that groove up, especially down in turn 1 and 2 in the 5 laps that he ran.
Well, Larry, I think you hit it when we started the show. Everybody's working on a race setup right now. And so, you know, you're going to kind of move the car around, and you're probably going to run some laps up there just to see what the car feels like, what the setup feels like.
By the way, Cale won the Southern 500 5 times.
Yeah.
Michael McDowell is from Phoenix, Arizona, but his career, it's not defined by, but it is best remembered for
yeah, man.
one day in Texas.
This is unbelievable.
Now, we have an unbelievable audio group, but
Yeah.
they did not enhance the sound of what was going on there.
And look, and he walked away.
And that is
And he raced the next
awesome.
day. And
Yep.
he was on all the TV, all network TV on Monday, talking about that crash. An unbelievable crash.
And he's racing here for the Levine family, a Texas-based team. So hope he has a great weekend, and we don't have to show that highlight. Well, maybe once a year.
But you know, the story behind that race team is pretty interesting, because Bob Levine, actually how he got interested in racing is his wife Sharon gave him a gift of a driving experience here at Texas Motor Speedway, and he became very interested and did a lot more driving experience, and then he decided, you know what, I really like racing, I think I want to own a team.
Sure did.
Well, he couldn't have a greater guy driving his car.
Agreed.
Michael McDowell he's a quality guy. Think a lot of him. Does a lot of good things at the track and away from the track.
Brendan Gaughan, 34th right now. 41 cars have practiced.
Well, Brendan owned this place in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series back in the day. If you go back to 2002, 2003, he and Shane Wilson, 4 consecutive wins in the Truck Series.
And he would put that thing up high, wide, and handsome, that Harry Gant line, and he would go somewhere, baby. He'd go to the front. Wonder if Harry's at home, if he ever listens to us, and how many times we talk about how he ran races here in Dover and high tracks where you put the car right up next to the wall and really make some good moves.
He's got a lot of projects. He's a busy man.
Yes, he is.
Yep.
The roofer, probably putting a roof on somewhere this morning.
Danica Patrick talking it over about how things are handling here in Texas. I know where I'm going to be at 12:30 Eastern Time tomorrow, right in front of the TV set as Fox Sports 1 kicks off year-long Major League Baseball coverage. It's a doubleheader, Yankees-Red Sox in the Bronx at 12:30 Eastern, followed by a playoff rematch as the Royals battle the Angels at 9 p.m. Eastern. Coverage begins tomorrow on America's Home for Baseball every Saturday, Fox Sports 1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
Hard to believe baseball season's here.
It is. Had opening day this past week, and that's an exciting time for baseball fans. Opening day, going to the ballpark for the first time.
Before the season started, the Cubs were in first place. About 4 hours later, they were in last place. I don't know. You got to have hope, you know. But it's hard.
What's the definition of insanity?
Yes. For 60-some years now, hoping the Cubs would win. All right, time for Traction Talk, sponsored by TireRack.com. Here's Chris Neville.
Well, Mike, it was the fall race here last year that tight teams got 11 sets of tires for that race. But late in the race, NASCAR released a 12th set of tires. We saw teams late in that race, everybody running to Goodyear to get that last set of tires because it was on first come, first serve. Well, this weekend, they're once again starting off with 12 sets of tires because of tire wear at Texas. And most of the tire engineers here are saying they've really got to watch that right front tire and typically see quite a bit of wear 5 to 10 laps into a run. So just like we saw last fall, if we have a caution after 10 laps, expect a lot of teams to come back to pit lane for a new set of tires.
Larry, we run the multi-zone tire here. Why don't you explain what that means?
Yeah, what that means is something that Goodyear has run at several tracks. And the tread of that tire is essentially 12 inches wide. And we know where the most heat and the most load is on the inside of the right front tire. But on the right sides, what they do with the inner 2 inches, it's a very tough compound. But then to help the grip of the right side tires, the outer 10 inches is a softer compound. That's where the grip zone is. So it's basically 2 different compounds on one tread of the right side tire.
So I guess when we think about camber, and that's leaning that right front tire in at the top, that inner shoulder is tougher because of the amount of camber that we would probably run here. And then the outer part is when the tire's in the corner, you get that good grip from that soft outer part of the tire.
Yeah, you can almost see, if we can see the tread of that tire, you can see the inner 2 inches right there, that it even has a different look to it because, to your point, Darrell, that's the part of the right side tire that takes all the abuse, is that inner 2 inches.
Well, that's a new feature that we have thanks to our friends at Tire Rack. Hard to beat their prices on tires. Here's Matt.
Mike, you mentioned about how Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 88 team would like to forget the last 3 weeks, but he couldn't come to a better place to change things around the side of his first Xfinity and Sprint Cup Series wins. But ironically, he hasn't won on a mile and a half since 2005 at Chicago. But Jr. telling his team after his second run, this is one of the best driving cars I've ever had here in practice. It's tight the first 60% of the corner. The track bar adjustment that he made from inside the car didn't do what he needed to do, so they brought it back, made some adjustments. He's back out on another run, 13th on the board.
One of 2 drivers to score their first Sprint Cup Series win here.
You know what I like about Dale Jr.? I mean, he and Greg Ives, and Dale Jr. has really been a fan of Greg Ives, and I hear Dale Jr. pumping up Greg more than I hear Greg pumping up Dale Jr. I think Dale Jr. really is trying to let this guy know, hey man, I'm on your team, I'm in your corner, let's get this done.
Well, I mean, we think of Dale Jr. as the kid. He's a 15-year veteran of the Sprint Cup Series. Greg Ives is a first-year crew chief, so I understand that.
I do too, and I like it.
But I was even talking to Jeff Gordon earlier this morning, who, by the way, will be on the Xfinity Series broadcast tonight with Michael Waltrip, Adam Alexander on Fox Sports 1. Jeff Gordon said he feels Greg Ives is a very special crew chief.
Wow. Well, that's high praise indeed. Car's version of spring break. Here's how some of the drivers spent it. Ricky Stenhouse on the golf course. Danica Patrick at Charlotte Motor Speedway. ZZ Top's going to play there at Coca-Cola 600. Joey Logano in New York City. Kevin Harvick dyeing Easter eggs. And how about this? That is Leo Gordon giving a high five to the leader of the free world, the President of the United States. Now that is quite a moment right there.
I like Jeff in the background. Are you really doing that?
Yes, you are.
But a very rare off weekend. You think about the Sprint Cup Series, 41 weeks of racing with 3 off weekends.
Exactly.
Was not a great week, however, for Richard Childress Racing and Ryan Newman. Tire gate, a situation that's been evolving over several weeks, and it was the 31 team that NASCAR took tires from, had them tested by both NASCAR and by an independent organization, and determined that the tires had been tampered with and that minute holes were put in the tires to bleed off excess air pressure.
Yeah, and you can see right here, a P5 penalty for Luke Lambert in that group. But what they are going to do, as you can see it right there, they are appealing this penalty. So right now, Luke Lambert and those other 2 crew members, they are at the racetrack. They don't have to pay the fine. But right now, Ryan Newman's points, it reflects that 75-point penalty right there.
I'm just not sure about the appeal, Larry. I mean, what would you appeal?
Richard Childress made a statement yesterday. He said, we believe we have a very good case for appeal. That appeal will be heard next week, and said they would have no further comment on the matter, respecting the appeal process until it's completed.
I'm going to be very honest. I think the reason behind the appeal was just to buy another week, to keep Luke Lambert, because actually there's another key member of Richard Childress Racing, Slugger Labby, that has some issues right now from Auto Club Speedway with Brian Scott. Their appeal is going to be heard the same day is the Ryan Newman 31 team appeal. It had to do with some trailing arm mounts and configuration from Auto Club Speedway.
I can see Slugger's point. I can see appealing that.
Well, they're not appealing the penalty. They're appealing the severity of the penalty.
The severity of the penalty. I can see that. Maybe it wasn't in the nature of the rule the way it's written, but if I understand what Slugger said that he did, it was just a different way of mounting a trailing arm that no one had ever done before.
But yet had not been approved.
Hadn't been approved.
Which is where the issue was.
And so it's always back to what I've said time and time again. I don't think he was a rule breaker. I think in this case he may have been a rule maker.
I think if you look at the rule book now,
it got adjusted.
Very true.
It got adjusted.
Well, let's set the penalties aside for the moment and check with Chris Neville.
Yeah, and Jamie Mack right now having a good run in this practice, currently 5th quick. And Jamie, right now, we're doing this all in the daytime. It's not too warm out here, but definitely different than what we're going to have tomorrow night. How much is this track going to change?
Well, I think it'll change a lot, but it's certainly the same for everybody. Our McDonald Cessna Chevy was pretty good right off the truck. I made a 10 or a 12 lap run. You know, the fall off here is more than what we have at some tracks, so it sometimes the fast lap doesn't really mean what you have. So I'd like to stay out there and just kind of see what it falls off to. And Matt and Josh are making a couple changes now, and we're going to go back out. And I think we have a really good plan today. This is a different schedule than what we typically have with both practices and qualifying today and nothing tomorrow. So you kind of have to have it all together and get done what you need to get done now.
Jimmy Mackey's got some good speed right now. Still looking for that first win in Texas.
And Mike, there's some of these older racetracks that haven't been paved recently. These tracks still have aggregate in them. They still have the old kind of asphalt like we used to use when we would pave a racetrack. All the recently repaved racetracks have the new polymer kind of asphalt. And that asphalt creates unbelievable amounts of grip. And there is no give up on that kind of asphalt like there is on this old style.
They're almost paving them too good these days for racing.
Isn't that something?
Never thought I'd hear that, but yes. Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. Fast Friday presented by K&N. Martin Truex Jr. still with the fastest lap of practice. In fact, no change among the Fast Five so far, but let's meet the man who is 8th on the board. Here's Matt.
Still looking for his first win here at Texas. A moment ago, he was looking at the left side tires, which came off the 2-car, which that tire configuration hasn't changed since 2011, but a slight compound change to this new multi-zone tire. Do you like the tire here at places like Texas and Atlanta?
Well, I like the dual zone tire or multi-zone tire that Goodyear has, and I think that's kind of a really smart innovation. But checking out the lefts, we had a lot of trouble with the lefts here last spring, and this is the same tire, but not seeing any issues. And I know we really haven't changed anything setup-wise in the cars, but the cars are a little bit slower down the straightaway with the spacer on the engine, and they're making a little bit less downforce, and that seems to have taken away some of the tire issues we had last spring.
You ran the Xfinity race at Fontana looking to gain some improvement. You're running it here again. How does it help you at a place like Texas, a place you haven't won before?
Well, we've come so close to winning here, and it's been kind of frustrating to not win at Texas and be so close, but I think there's always something that helps you, Matt. This year the car drives more and more like the Xfinity car than it ever has before. And so, if you can learn some kind of rhythm in that car racing tonight, your Friday night, that can help you for Saturday, that just puts you one step ahead. And, in this sport, every step counts.
And I don't think it's hunting season anywhere, Mike, but he's got that new hunting beard look going.
Yeah, there's
baby beard. There you go.
There's a lot of camo here at Texas Motor Speedway. Tonight, 8 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, Jeff Gordon makes his debut as a Fox Sports analyst on the Xfinity Series race presented by Can-Am.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I like to see how Jeff. I like to get his take after he does the race up here, because we come up here and do it every week, and it's kind of old hat to us. But when you haven't ever done a race before, it's got to be a fun experience for him. I know I've loved having Harvick and Keselowski and Boyer up here. It's really added a lot to the race, I think.
Here are the drivers that are going to compete in both Xfinity and Sprint Cup this weekend.
See, I don't understand why, if people keep saying, like Brad and even Denny and Matt and these guys that have run these races, these Xfinity races, and they say, oh yeah, it helps me for Saturday. I don't know why everybody wouldn't want to get in there and do it.
You would think more so this year than in the past.
Particularly if you're struggling, Larry. I mean, if you're having trouble on Saturday or Sunday, why wouldn't you want to get some laps in a car that's very similar to what you're going to race the next day?
Well, Brad Keselowski has always struggled at Auto Club Speedway. He climbed in that Xfinity Series and ran that race on Saturday, and where was he late Sunday afternoon at Auto Club Speedway?
That's right, he was in victory
spraying
lane,
champagne.
Always like what Childress said, and you may remember this. He said the best feeling in the world is to go home on an airplane with confetti all over you, smelling like champagne, holding a trophy.
That's right.
That's as good as it gets.
Here's the fastest driver in Texas right now. In 2013, Martin Truex led 142 of the 334 laps, but lost the lead on the last pit stop with 20 to go, finished second.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. He had the best car that night and that day, and just was running away with it, and then had trouble in the pits.
But look at his finishes this season.
Flat.
Wow. No, flat at the top. I could settle for flat when it's up in that lofty range of all top 10s.
I like it.
But you look at that, 6 top 10 finishes in 6 races. If you go back to last year, he only had 5 top 10 finishes total.
Well, I'm not going to look. Cole Pern's a crew chief. That's a change. Martin Truex is a changed man too this year. I mean, I did a sit down with him earlier, and he's so much fun. Last year, you know, he was gloom and doom, and this year is so much fun. He's really cool, and I heard his brother say when Martin's happy, and Martin's running good, the whole family's happy.
Yeah. One of only 3 drivers to score top 10s in every race so far this season, and the only one to do it with a single-car team. Today's K&N driver profile, Danica Patrick. 5 career top 10 finishes, tied with Janet Guthrie for the most all-time by a female driver in what is now the Sprint Cup Series. Martinsville has become one of her favorite racetracks, and look at this slick move. Why? There's her Taxac number 10. Paul Menard spins right in front of her, and it's a good thing there was a hole back to David Gilliland's car, because she made the move, got out of trouble. Darrell, what's interesting about this photo right here?
Well, a couple of things. That's her mirror way up here, and it's kind of extended back. But look at her on-off. That's her kill switch right there, the master switch to the battery. And look how thin and cut out it is. I mean, I don't know. That's pretty cool, really.
Larry, we're obsessed with weight, but boy, has that thing been relieved. Somebody's been working overtime.
But how often do you use that? Very rarely. You never really use it in a race. So, and again, you may say, well, it's only a few ounces, but we always had a saying, ounces makes pounds.
Maybe it's one and done.
I hope the guy that did all the machine work on that isn't making shifters.
Oh, that's what I said. It looked like Dale Jr.'s shifter. Maybe not. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
Jeff Gordon, something in blue this week. Panasonic colors for Jeff. I said it 2 weeks ago Sunday, and I'll say it again. If Jeff Gordon drives the rest of this season like he drove the last 50 laps at Martinsville, he'll be the champion. Yeah. He had that speeding issue on pit road, restarted 22nd, fought his way to 9th. Traffic didn't matter. Get out of my way. I'm coming through. And he did. It was an unbelievable drive at the end of that race.
And he had 2 great races here at Texas last year. He finished second in the spring. In fact, both races, he was leading with less than 10 laps to go. We all know what happened in the fall race, but he did finish second, got passed by Joey Logano.
Yeah, on the last lap, he got passed by Joey Logano. Joey Logano came and got 4 tires there with a little shootout at the end. But
he's the only driver to compete in every Sprint Cup race that's ever been held at Texas Motor Speedway.
Larry, you think Jeff's got 92 wins. There's seasons when he's won 10 and 12 races. You think we'll ever see that again? I mean, I think through the years, I had a season I won 10 or 12. Dale did. I think Rusty may have. Even Bill Elliott. I think there were times when all of us at one time or another were able to win that many races. But you think we'll see that anytime soon?
I just think with where our competition is at today, I think even 8 races like Matt Kenseth won back in 2013, I think that's a rarity. Just because, Darrell, maybe outside of going to a road course or somewhere like Martinsville, in my book, there's 20 drivers in that garage area that can pull in victory lane on any given race day.
Well, this joint right here is a pretty good example. The last 9 races have been won by 9 different drivers.
Right.
So last 9 spring races.
Spring races, yeah. Last 9 spring races, 9 different winners here.
I think that's one reason, and I think the other is that the specifications on these parts, the box the teams have to work in is so small. When one team finds a small advantage, it doesn't take very long at all for the whole garage area to catch on. So that helps ensure that parity and multiple winners are a part of this sport. I don't think we're ever going to see another 10-win season.
I don't really think we will either, but let's do the math. I think the difficulty comes within the number of multi-car teams. You know, 4 here, 4 there, 3 over here, 2 over there. You take those cars, you add them up, you got 15 guys that are all driving pretty equal equipment.
And they're all bound and determined to win every week. We'll be under the lights for the 2nd annual NASCAR Sprint Cup Series night race at Kansas Speedway on May 9th. For tickets, go to kansasspeedway.com.
And, of course, the next day is Mother's Day.
And that's where Jeff Gordon won his first of 4 races last season in Kansas. Casey Mears outlogging some laps and 15th on the board. Good run.
Little team's always pretty solid. On a good day, they can find themselves in the top 10 or 12. Qualify pretty good every week. Booty Barker. crew chief.
And in the points, holding their own. Remember, not everybody's going to get to the chase with the win. A few of these teams may make it into the chase on points.
And if you look at Martin Truex Jr.'s team, Casey Mears, as well as A.J. Allmendinger, the one common denominator there is the alliance that they have with the Chevrolet group over there at Richard Childress Racing. Yeah, A.J. Allmendinger has had a heck of a season, but unfortunately they've had engine issues 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. I think they've worked really hard on their mile-and-a-half program. A.J. Allmendinger and that crowd have, and they've done a lot better. But they got to be anxious for that first road race to roll around, because guess what? They don't have to race Marcus Ambrose this year.
Well, that's true. Matt?
And the guy who is setting the benchmark for speed at this juncture of practice, Martin Truex Jr., he's fastest on the board. And you guys continue, though, to make gains. I heard the last communication on the radio that you like the latest change. What are you still chasing?
Yeah, we definitely can get better. We fired off pretty fast there, but car got loose and fell off a little too fast. So there's definitely some cars better than us right now. We need to get better on longer runs.
Special event coming up in a few weeks. Any tickets left?
There is tickets left. Martin Truex Jr. Foundation.org. Go check it out.
At Walk for a Cause, a great event for his foundation.
Yeah, when he talks about the long run right now, I would have to say Casey Kane in that 5, Keith Rodden, they're second quickest, but they're second best on 5 consecutive laps and first as far as 10 consecutive laps.
Martin Truex, never fear. Cole Pern is near. He'll get you going, brother.
Let's have a look at the best 10 consecutive laps. Remember, everybody in race trim, nobody that we know of, has switched over to qualifying trim as of yet. Still 37 minutes to go in this practice session.
We'll kind of know when that happens, because they'll pick up about a second. Yeah. Imagine when they put on tires.
Oh yeah, it'll be dramatic.
Tires and tape will make a big difference.
Sam Hornish, 25th. 3 times he has been to victory lane at Texas. He's run 12 laps. Carl Edwards, 4th on the board. He's run 12 laps.
To me, the neatest thing about this weekend for Carl Edwards, aside from trying to get his first top 10 finish of the year, if he can win here this weekend, Stanley that you see on that race car, they will donate $1 million to the Children's Miracle Network hospitals through their Ace Hardware Foundation. But regardless of the outcome, they're going to donate $100,000.
Larry, don't you think it's a real big transition for Carl, not to just from Roush Fenway over to Gibbs, but from Jimmy Finning to Darian Grubb? I mean, wouldn't that be a pretty big crew chief change alone without manufacturing another team and everything else?
The style difference certainly would be great, but as I told some guys earlier this morning on a radio interview, Carl Edwards has had some speed. He's not had the greatest luck. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Jeff Gordon's season to some degree. Go back to Atlanta. Looked like he was going to have a top 5 finish and had the flat tire issue. Go back to Martinsville last week, a place we don't talk a lot about Carl Edwards. He was running in the top 5 there and had the flat tire. So they have speed. They've just not capitalized on it.
Yeah, he had a pretty good car at Vegas. You know, got into it with, I think it was Casey Kane coming off turn 4 there. Yeah, they've had good cars. They just haven't been able to capture a good finish yet. Right here, flat tire.
And this was running inside the top 5 fairly late in the race. Fortunately, he was able to catch a caution and still came back to get a 17th place finish, but obviously ended his chances of maybe his first top 10 of the year.
Well, obviously, Martinsville was good to all the Gibbs cars.
Yes, it was.
They were all in the top 5 except for Carl.
Goodbye, Sprint. Stay connected to the Sprint Cup Series with Sprint during the Cut Your Bill in Half event. Just bring your Verizon or AT&T wireless bill and current phone to a Sprint store, and they'll cut your rate plan. Or you can switch now at sprint.com/half-price. Brad Keselowski, enviable record coming in here. 32 minutes to go in this practice session.
Track looks like it's taking some pretty good rubber, Larry. It's starting to darken up a little bit. Not as gray as it was when the boys first got here.
And I think that outer 10 inches of that softer compound on that right side tire, I think that actually helps this racetrack rubber in. The Xfinity Series, they're running the exact same tire combination that the Sprint Cup Series is running.
How about Alex Bowman in the top 30 in practice today, 28th in this opening round. And again, not seeing evidence of anybody switching over to qualifying trim. The times have not come down since the first couple laps of this session.
Yeah, Kevin Bono Mannion, the crew chief on that 7 car, he knows how to win races. He's won races before.
Took his modified to the first Southern Tour race, and I'm hazy on this. I think he put Ryan Preece in it, and he led almost every lap.
Yeah, he's a heck of a modified car. Yep. Ryan Newman won some races in that car.
Sure did.
Pretty fast.
Landon Castle 30th right now. And that came on his 5th lap of practice. Chris?
Well, David Reagan starting off with quite a bit of speed this weekend, and just looking back at how this year started for him, he told me a few races ago that just building chemistry between he and Adam Stevens was taking some time. Just that first practice, having the car comfortable in that first practice, and then building speed from there was definitely a challenge. Well, at Auto Club Speedway, he was fast out of the box. They had a lot of speed early in that race before he had some run-ins with Jeff Gordon on the racetrack, and then a 5th place at Martinsville. Strong finish for this team. So we're seeing this chemistry building between he and Adam Stevens. The two of those driver crew chief combinations starting to talk the same language. Matt?
Chris, if the stars and planets had lined up a little bit better for Kurt Busch, he could be sitting here with 2 wins coming into Texas. He won here in 2009, and they've just backed up the most recent change because the car was decent center to exit, just a tick loose off. Now his biggest issue is fighting tight, so they made a camber nose weight change right here on the 41.
And this is actually the very first track that Kurt returns to for the 2nd time with crew chief Tony Gibson, because that's where this swap happened, was before the Texas race in November between the 10 crew and Tony Gibson and the 41 crew and Daniel Knost.
Yeah, you know, and then thinking back to David Reagan in the 18 car, I think David Reagan had to get over the idea that, hey, this is Kyle Busch's car, and I'm supposed to be able to win a race in it. I think he really had to settle in and say, look, I got to drive like David Reagan, not like Kyle Busch.
And you know what, Darrell, I can relate to that, because when Dale Jarrett came over and joined Robert Yates Racing to sit in 1995 for injured Ernie Irvan, I think both of us had to go through a period, because I had the attitude, Ernie Irvan won races in this car, you need to figure out how to drive it. And Dale Jarrett was thinking, Ernie Irvan won races in this car, I need to figure out how to drive it. Finally at Charlotte, we both decided, right now we don't have Ernie Irvan, but we have each other, and we better figure this out. And we immediately started running competitive, and just a few weeks later won the Pocono race.
Same thing happened to me and Tim Brewer. When '81, when Brewer was my crew chief, and he didn't like me and I didn't like him, we didn't get along too good. Junior called us in the truck and said, look here, you two knuckleheads. Either you work together and get this car running like it's supposed to, or you're both going to be looking for a job. We won 11 races. There you go.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to have that little wake-up call.
By the way, the last time a driver won 10 or more races was Jimmy Johnson in 2007. And that's the only time that's happened since Jeff Gordon won 10 back in 1998. So doesn't happen often. May never happen again. Fast Friday presented by K&N. 25 minutes to go in this practice session, and Martin Truex Jr. is fastest over Casey Kane, David Reagan. All of these speeds set in the first 2 laps of the session, all the way down through 25th or so place.
Well, that's 9 miles an hour off the track record set here last year.
But in race trim.
Yeah, I know, but that's a lot.
The Penske Fords working together, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski.
That's a good thing. A little different aero package here this year with a little bit different rear spoiler, 2 inches shorter than last year. Cars don't create quite as much downforce. I kind of want to get around somebody and be sure this thing ain't going to get snappy loose on me.
You know, Mike, you had the graphic a while ago about Brad Keselowski. I think it was his last 8 or 9 races. And then we talked about Joey Logano. 6 top 10s to start this season. When you look at those 2 drivers,
Let me finish this time.
think about it, 12 starts in 2015, 11 top 10 finishes combined. The only blemish, Brad Keselowski in this too had engine failure in the Daytona 500.
Well, now Kevin Harvick's streak of top 2 finishes ended at Martinsville, 8 straight. Car number 2 now has the longest streak of top 2 finishes.
And it is how many?
That'd be 2.
2 top 2s.
Greg Biffle out for a practice run. Let's check with Chris.
Well, Mike, just checking in with Greg Biffle. This is a new car this week, and this team has been working on a next evolution of car for over a year now, and this is the first time it's hitting the racetrack. It's going to take him a while to develop it, but he said already he can tell that the front end of this car feeling very different than the previous generation of car. He said now it's all about trying to figure out how to balance that front end with the rear end, but this front end definitely feeling much better than what they've had for the last year. Matt?
Chris showing impressive speed so far is Austin Dillon in the 3. He's currently 6th on the board. Is this one of those racetracks where you can get a good sense of speed from sitting inside the cockpit?
I think so. You really feel it right at the wall as you come off the corner, and you're carrying a lot of momentum, and it slides right up against there, and you just keep going. So we've had a good Dow Chevrolet. Really proud of the guys. We were pretty fast here in the previous race and brought something very similar package-wise, and as long as I don't slide through my box. I slid through my box twice here, so if I can do good on pit road, I think we'll have a good day.
And he was looking pretty stout in his Xfinity car yesterday during practice.
These concrete pit lanes and concrete pit boxes, I think they're concrete here, aren't they? No, I guess they're still asphalt. Some of the pit boxes are.
But they're concrete.
Concrete, yeah. They're hard. They're hard to stop in. They get slick, and we saw what race we saw where Joey Logano could not get out of the pits, spinning the tires.
Yeah, that was at Atlanta. I want to go back to Chris Neville's report on Greg Biffle in the 16. Here's his teammate Trevor Bayne in the 6. They were at a point, even though we're only 6 races, you had to make a major swing at it. When you think about their 3 drivers this year, which would be 6 races, 18 starts, 1 top 10 finish, and that was Greg Biffle, 10th at Daytona. They've led 2 laps total. Greg Biffle at Daytona, just fine-tuning what they've been working on was not going to get them where they needed to go. They needed to swing for the fence and swing quick.
No, but and I'm not putting these guys down. I know they're working their guts out because they say that every week. But if I show up with a brand new car and I'm only 21st fast on the board, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Even in race trim, because you know everyone else is
If I had a brand new car and said, oh, this is going to be our cure-all, fix-all, I'd want to be over on the left side of the screen up in a top 10 or 12 with my new car.
Yeah, because Trevor Bayne in the 6, he's 32nd. The fastest of the Roush Fenway Ford drivers is Ricky Stenhouse in the 17 back in 18.
And he has been pretty much carrying the flag for Roush Fenway over the last few weeks. He's had some decent runs. Still work to do, though.
You could hear Danica having to play with that throttle just a little bit on late exit of turn 4 in her 10 car.
Yeah, and that could, you know, without being able to see her steering input, most likely the car's got a little push in it, and you have to lift out the throttle a little bit to get that front end to bite. Boy, did you hear him out of the throttle and right back in it, but can't carry that speed off the corner. That's where she has to feather it a little bit. That's what you want to do, out early but back in it quick, but you got to stay in it to make a fast lap. Engines sound different this year with that tapered spacer. Yes. They were whining around here in the past, and we're down just a little on RPM, which takes that sound away.
Now, nobody's yet made a mock qualifying run, but why is Kevin Harvick sitting at the end of pit road?
Well, we know he was one of the drivers that had to serve a 15-minute penalty because Rodney Childers missed that meeting at Martinsville. But, yeah, he's 29th, but he's not run very many laps in this 4 car. He's only run 13 laps. So I don't know if they have went ahead and made a call to let's make a mock qualifying run, because he's just sitting there almost like he's waiting for a hole to go out and get a good clean lap.
Yeah, there's several cars on the track right now. There's about 8 or 10 cars out there, so there's not a real opening for him to make a clean lap just yet.
Matt, what's up?
His spotter, Timmy Fido, was trying to get him a hole in the racetrack because they have swapped over to their qualifying setup in race trim. Harvick was struggling pretty much on exit, especially down in turn 4. He just felt like it was too free. The car wasn't bad off turn 2, but turn 4 was his biggest hindrance. But he's waiting to get a good mock run here in qualifying setup.
Yeah, he's way over in 29 quick. So we'll see what this qualifying setup does for him, and he's starting to roll. Here he goes.
At the line, middle 3 and 4 behind you.
Oh, I mean, there's no question he's going to jump way up the practice sheet, because I don't think we're going to see very many qualifying runs in this practice.
You know, let's just ride and listen. Third fastest lap of the day, 28:45 for Kevin Harvick. 198 into turn 1, 194 miles an hour into turn 3. 15 minutes to go in the opening round of practice for the Sprint Cup Series. Martin Truex still fastest. That happened on his first lap of practice.
And you know that Harvick, if that was a qualifying run, I would expect a little bit more out of that run. If that's a qualifying run, and if Martin Truex and everybody that's been out earlier is in race trim, I think Kevin and those guys got a little work to do.
Yeah, I think the track maybe has lost just a little bit of speed since it opened for practice, but Casey Mears in the 13 just made a little bit of a run, and he's 4th quickest now, right behind Kevin Harvick.
Alex Kennedy looking for speed. 45 cars are here. Of course, 43 will start the Duck Commander 500 here tomorrow night. 2 will go home, and the bottom 5 on the speed chart: Cole Witt, Chris Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto, J.J. Yaley, and Alex Kennedy.
Well, Alex Kennedy, he may be the slowest of the 45 drivers, but he wins the award for most laps. You saw it right there. He's run 58 laps in this practice.
I'm in favor of that, Larry. I mean, their race is to make the race, and to get that young driver as much track time as possible, because he's missed a couple of races. It's a good thing.
Well, at the high speeds we run here, this is a really, really fast racetrack. You got to be pretty comfortable in that car to drive in and hold that thing wide open coming off the corner, and that's where the speed is. So just trying to get some laps, get comfortable.
Well, let's check with Chris.
Well, and Jeb Burton heading back out on the racetrack, and this morning he posted a note about his mom, Tabitha. He said, "Get well soon," as we found out today that she's fighting breast cancer. So they're running a decal on the car this weekend, and they just wanted everybody to try and send her some prayers, send her some well wishes, and obviously this team thinking about Jeb's mom this weekend.
Absolutely. Nice sentiment there.
Yeah, I mean, we seem like we're fighting this a lot right now in the community of NASCAR. Our own Steve Burns. You think about J.D. Gibbs. We had the special last week on Sherry Pollock's, Martin Truex Jr.'s girlfriend. And, you know, we're a community that we go at each other on the racetrack week in and week out, but close-knit when it comes to pulling together to praying for our comrades in that garage area.
And almost across the board, it's always everybody wants to get well so they can get back to the track.
Yes.
Because that's where their friends and family is, at the racetrack.
Bristol Motor Speedway has made an announcement about the title of their race, just dedicated to that cause. K&N Fast Friday menu here on Fox Sports 1. Special weekend edition of NASCAR Race Hub coming up next. We'll be back with Sprint Cup Series final practice at 2. NASCAR Race Hub at 3:30. Then Xfinity Series qualifying at 4:30. And then Sprint Cup qualifying. All live here on Fox Sports 1 today. Those times all Eastern. Clint Boyer made a big announcement this morning, he and Michael Waltrip, that Maxwell House will be on their car for roughly half a dozen races, up to and including next year's Daytona 500.
I'm a big Maxwell House fan.
We like coffee.
I love coffee.
Yes, we do.
You know, we talked about it all during the broadcast at Martinsville a couple of weeks ago. A team that, to me, that made an amazing recovery from where they were at in practice to that race on Sunday was Clint Boyer, Brian Patty in this 15 car. Ended up finishing 13th. Not where they want to be, but where they were on Saturday, they looked like they couldn't even run inside the top 40.
I mean, it's not often that you find a car and driver of that caliber. I think we said it at the time. For 42 minutes of a 45-minute practice, dead last.
Couldn't make
on
a
the
lap.
Practice chart. No.
Couldn't even make a lap. But I like what Michael told us. We know it's not Clint, because Martinsville is one of his best racetracks. He's almost won that race 2 or 3 times. So we know it's not Clint. We got to give him, the car is not where it needs to be, and we got to fix the car.
And they did. That's the important part.
Exactly.
Is they found an issue, reverted to a different setup, fixed it, and he had a strong race. Yep. Mike Bliss in the 32. He is 33rd on the chart after 10 laps of practice.
Well, I really like what I'm seeing, though, with this racetrack, because we're early in the weekend and they can run at the bottom, they can run in the middle of the racetrack, or they can run right against the wall.
Well, what I like is the color, and that's what we look at when we talk about is the track taking rubber. And this track is taking a lot of rubber. I mean, it was gray when we got here yesterday afternoon, and right now it's darkened up and thing looks really racy.
Yep, looking good. Back to the garage and Matt.
Mike, after the previous run, Kurt Busch felt like they were bottoming out. They made some changes to help out the clearance issues there. He went back out, and then he said the car was just way too free on exit, so he immediately came back in. They've still not swapped over to qualifying setup. They're going to do that halfway through the second session today. And Larry Mack, you were talking a lot about how the track is changing. When practice began, the track temperature was 62. I just took it a few moments ago, 83. So it's up over 20 degrees from the start to almost near finish of this first practice.
And that's just simply loss of grip when it goes up 20 degrees. And that's where I think, Darrell, when they get in full-blown qualifying trim and this track cools down with qualifying being very late in the afternoon, I don't know that we're going to get to that track record, but I think we're going to see some pretty fast speed.
Oh, I agree. I mean, right now, a Truex at the top has been since we started at 28.25. Like I said, the record is a 26.98.
Now, the question was raised on Twitter about an hour ago about Martin Truex Jr. Is Cole Pearn NASCAR's first full-time crew chief from Canada? The answer is no, and we'll give you a few minutes to ponder that one.
We just take a break. Let them think about it.
All right, we can do that.
What do you say?
I like that. Let's take a break, eh?
I don't think we have a choice.
4 minutes to go in the opening round of practice. 2 drivers have broken into the top 5 late in this session. Kevin Harvick and Casey Mears. Kyle Larson 12th, Matt Kenseth 20th. Posted quick times late in this session. Chris?
Yeah, Casey Mears just popping that lap up into the top 5 there. And Casey, you guys switched over to qualifying trim. One of the few teams that did that. You pretty happy with the car and race trim?
I think so. You know, our car was pretty similar to how it was here last time, and we seem to be able to take what we had last time. Our team's growing, right? So whatever we had last time, and we just kind of build on it, and I was pretty happy with it in race trim. So obviously conditions change a lot by the time you go to the race, and the conditions of the track changed a ton from the start of this practice to where we are now. Yeah, and Geico Chevy has a pretty good amount of speed, and you know, we'll see how it goes here. We just got to see how this next practice goes and then anticipate what it's going to do for later tonight for qualifying.
Great. Thanks, Casey.
And we talk about this a lot. The biggest major change that a team has to go through to go from race trim to qualifying trim, for qualifying they lower the fuel level down and put a lot more ballast in the frame rails to get that weight down low. Plus it gives it more nose weight, which helps tighten the car up, make it more stable with tape on the nose.
Everything they allow these guys to do to these cars today with the no ride height rule, low fuel, a lot of left side weight or whatever the weight situation is, it makes no wonder the cars are so fast. Those are all the things through the years that we wanted to do that were not legal. You had to have the car full of fuel. You had to weigh a certain amount. And so all the things, and you had to have a certain height. You know, the car had to be at a certain height. So no wonder these cars are so fast because they're exactly the way you'd like them to be when you want to qualify.
Larry, here's Justin Allgaier with flipping ships on that Harry Scott number 51.
And I have no idea what that means.
That's another mystery we're going to ponder over the next few minutes. It's a TV show, our director Artie Kempner, and flipping shit. Is that like flipping houses? Really? You flip ships? You buy them and sell them? I'll be darned. We learned something new. And by the way,
always something.
Late in 1973, Canadian driver Earl Ross brought the Carling beer sponsorship down to North Carolina to Junior Johnson to run in what was then the Winston Cup Series. Gordy McEachin from Middlesex County in southwestern Ontario moved down with Ross to be Earl's crew chief. They won a race that year at Martinsville. Gordy stayed on, working in NASCAR, and lived out the rest of his life in Elkin, North Carolina. So Cole Pearn is not the first Canadian crew chief in NASCAR. That honor, as far as we know, goes to Gordy McEachin.
Who, by the way, has a win, as you said, at Martinsville. So that's a lot of pressure on Cole. Got to get a win, brother.
And Earl Ross actually won Rookie of the Year in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in 1974.
That's right. Josh Wise, 37th. And again, his first lap was on the first lap of this session. So it should be in pretty good shape for qualifying in that Phil Parsons number 98 later today.
I want to go back to a report that Chris Neville did early in this practice session about sets of tires. They have 12 sets of tires. That's pretty much for the race tomorrow night. They'll start on one set. They'll have 11 laid in the pits. As far as today for practice and qualifying, they have 5 sets of Goodyear tires.
One practice session ending now. One more practice session to come here on Fox Sports 1 in about an hour, and then qualifying this evening. Three things you need to know. Casey Kane has the best 10-lap average in this session, as well as the second best lap overall. Only one Ford in the top 15. That's Brad Keselowski in 10th. And Joe Gibbs Racing has 3 of their 4 cars in the top 15.
And of that, David Reagan is the fastest in that 18 car, and he stayed in the top 5 the majority of this practice session.
This is a good track for David Reagan. Won a couple of poles here. Never know.
So the top 10 in opening practice includes 2 Toyotas, Keselowski's Ford, and 7 Chevrolets, led by Martin Truex Jr. at 191.1 miles per hour. We'll be back for round 2 of practice. Now to a special edition of Race Hub and John Roberts.
Mike, thank you very much. There is just something about this Texas Motor Speedway that brings out the worst and the best in some